All right, welcome back to another edition of the OG Gambling Syndicate. I'm Joe Giglio, joined today by the King, the Groove Wagon King himself, Reilly Dunn. Reilly, how are you, sir?
Pretty good. Last night got East Coast dadded a little bit. That's where the MNF games or the Sunday night games run longer than planned. Precious sleep hygiene, But on the whole, pretty darn good. Last night cashed 2 winners, not 1 but 2. So that was tight.
Yeah, the NFL week 2 was difficult.
Two was
not gonna lie to you.
Me. Yeah. I got bloodbath on too.
Week 3 did well, like to the point where it's probably a little bit of discipline involved. A little bit of those DraftKings offers involved. I don't know about you, but on DraftKings, you can get the no sweat early. Well, two different things. You get the no sweat bet, which means put whatever you want down. It's usually 25, 40, or $50. If you lose, you get the money back. No big deal. The other one I really like on DraftKings is the up early bets.
Ooh.
Okay. So for example, on Sunday, they give you one per day. So I had up early Chargers. So anytime your team goes up 7-0 or 14-7, anytime your underdog goes up by 7, you win right then and there.
Sweet.
Okay. So Chargers lost to the Steelers, but they were up 7-0. Cash that bet. Yeah. Last night, the Washington Commanders, who we'll get into here, were plus 214, I think. I was like, I didn't really think they were going to win the football game, but I was like, something wonky could happen early that they take a 7-0 lead, put a couple dollars down, doubled it up.
Sweet.
Because they went up, and obviously they went on to win the game. So a lot of different offers on DraftKings. If you're not kind of fishing around and hunting for those, please do. You'll find your way. You'll find some different things, not just straight winners or straight sides and all those things. But now we have 3 weeks of data to work with. And so we went into the season with some thoughts. I wanted to say props to you about the Rams. You said their vibes were off. My goodness, even though they pulled out a miracle.
Yeah. And my boy Kyron, who, by the way, man, his usage, I was on that last year at this time. My goodness, McVay, when he gets a hold of a real one, he is going to feed the heck out of him so long as that dude stays healthy. He's kind of lock button for me. If you play daily or you're looking to trade for folks, I love Kyron.
So what have we learned through the first few weeks? Maybe you could pick me up as an example. I lose Puka Nacua. I lose Isaiah Pacheco. Jake Ferguson, who I didn't even realize was playing this week, essentially missed 2 games, finally comes back and looks unbelievable. My fantasy team, as you might expect, is a mess.
Not mine. I'm 3-0, Joe Wagon.
and not from anything I could have avoided, right? Other than Nacua having the nagging injury in preseason, but who knows what the heck what's real and what's not in the preseason. So we're here and now in week 4. And what are some of your overarching thoughts, or what are some of your strategies to attack? Let's start with fantasy first, or it might apply to both fantasy and gambling.
Yeah. He is rostered in a lot of spots, but there's a chance that maybe in some leagues he's not. Bucky Irving, I don't know if it'll be the full Kyron because he doesn't necessarily get or he won't necessarily see the usage that McVay does for his backs, but it looks like he's coming for Chad White's job pretty hard. His usage is ticking up. It was kind of a similar situation to Kyron in that he was super productive in college. His measurables were not so hot at all, and that caused his draft stock to fall a good bit. But he looks like he might just be better than Chad White. Again, I don't know how helpful that is because he's probably is rostered in most spots. If he's not, go there. And waivers start getting thin. But what you do want to look for, anybody who's starting to get touches, carries, or targets, that data is usually pretty freely available to find. Anybody who is starting to see an uptick in that usage, even if their underlying isn't great. Good example, Lad McConkey, who a lot of folks probably lost patience with and might have actually started cutting this week because Quentin Johnson actually got the scores. But Lad's usage is good. Like, he's getting targeted.
Chargers receiver. Yeah.
Chargers receiver. His, the QB situation is unfortunately getting a little shady because Herbert is, dinged. But that is one where the underlying usage looks really promising. You start these waivers, especially at tight end, man. I was one of those Isaiah Likely shove on the waiver wire, and it's just been nothing since then. But I wish I had more for you on where you might be able to hunt. Actually, some of the Packers wideouts, like I've seen Romeo Doubs, I never know how to say that. That wide receiver, he again with Malik, their quarterback, just running a whole ton. It hasn't looked like that intriguing for the wideouts yet, but Jordan Love will be coming back. A lot of folks have dropped him, and Jordan Love did look like he was actually prioritizing him. Jaden Reed, nobody dropped, but on the off chance that he's around there, might be worth sniffing in. If the best you can do is Christian Watson, that's another place to look. Oh, Jordan Addison is one that some folks might have cut, wide receiver on the Vikings. He's due to return soon, and he probably takes Jay Naylor, I want to say, who scored, I think, in all of these Vikings games. That might be one to look for.
You have an overarching strategy, though, for these.
I do.
What do we call it?
Oh, man. So this is for sports betting against the spread or money line, whatever. This is for start sit. This is really for everything. So my whole deal, I'm always talking about everything is a market. Everything is a market. You have to have some opinion that is different from everybody else's. Now, it doesn't have to be wildly different, although if it is, then, and you're right, bully. But everything is a market. Everything is priced in. So what you got to find is where you differ from consensus on what is out there. And the 4-part framework for evaluating NFL teams.
It's a 4-part plan.
Four-part GMLK. And what that stands for is the 4 tiers of NFL team quality. And I'm gonna break it down for you.
Okay.
Tier 1 G, Garbo. These are teams that are bad. And the reason that last night went pretty well for me to start with, the Jags, I think, are one of those. But then you've got the next tier, which is meh. And that's a team that, okay, they're not amazing, but actually, they're whatever. They're not Garbo.
They're not.
That's key. That's key. The next is legit. Solid team, pretty good. It's legit. And then the last tier is K, kick ass. Now, what makes NFL so tough is these tiers are always shifting throughout the season, and people's garbage, meh, legit, kick ass, GMLK. And
this is high tech.
That is high tech. So my whole approach and my recommendation to anybody out there would be you need to think for yourself on where, don't look without looking at the spreads necessarily.
You know how I feel about this.
Yeah.
Do your own homework.
Do your own homework.
Watch the games.
Watch the games. And where game watching comes in really handy is a lot of times you'll see that teams that everybody thinks of as one tier, you might be watching and say to yourself, actually, they don't look like they're in what everybody thinks. So great example, another team who cashed last night, the Commies, the Commanders, okay? So week 1.
You mean the division leading Washington football team?
Division leading yes. Washington football. So going into this campaign, it was pretty widely believed that they were Garbo. That was the general consensus there. In watching these games, I kind of started thinking, they're meh. They're not not necessarily world beaters or even actively good, but I don't think they're Garbo. Flip side of that, and you'll see this a lot in early NFL, the Bengals' slow start has been a historic thing, but also I think Zach Taylor might be just an outright bad coach. I kind of think that Burrow catching a heater for 2 straight playoff campaigns was a curse in disguise for that, because I think he kind of convinced that franchise, oh, we got to hold on to ZT. He's one of these. No, he's kind of an idiot. I don't trust him. And, they're doing their slow start thing again. And I think there was a little bit of a lag where everybody was thinking, no, they're legit. They got a lot of time. I think they're meh. And anyways, one important thing to understand here is with all 4 of these, there's always opportunities. So the flip side of, a Garbo team who's actually kind of meh, or a solid team who might actually be meh, you'll have teams who we think of as kick ass going into a campaign, and then they start looking a little funny, and you got to check your priors. For instance, I went into this campaign thinking that Houston was making the leap. They were going to be all types of kick ass. Their week 1 was really good. Although, their week 1 was really good. They barely failed to cover because Anthony Richardson cashed a touchdown on like 4th and 6 from the goal to beat the spread. But anyways, I actually, with Mixon banged up in that O-line looking really sus, I don't think they are kick ass yet. And they're probably legit. Honestly, right now, they might even be kind of meh. Another one for me is Detroit. I was convinced that Detroit was going to be kick ass and just real good. I don't think we're there yet, even though, they just won another one. I'm not necessarily all the way there. And then the Vikings are one. That team's good. That is a good team. I get that it's Sam Darnold and we're all kind of seeing, and it's tough to believe that Sam Darnold could really have it like that. KOC is a great coach. That defense, that Brian Flores, who I actually loved in Miami, that D's real good. So they're one that I think has surprised a lot of people, and that people thought that maybe they were meh at best. Nah, they good. So yeah, just in terms of thinking, whether or not you agree with all those that I just laid out, think for yourself before you even look at the numbers on the spread. Just think, where do I think people are placing these teams, and where might I differ in where I place them? Because that's where you're going to find opportunity. If you see a game and it's priced like, it's so, like, one of my favorite situations is a meh team that I think is actually kind of whatever, but they're treated like they're garbage, and they're playing a team that grades out as legit, but actually I think they're also kind of meh. That's a huge opportunity for value. And that's what we got last night with Commies Bengals, where it's like there were 2 wildly different perceptions. I think the Bengals were still being treated. They're 7.5 point favorites. So they were still being treated as a good team. And then, as a legit team. And meanwhile, the Commanders are being treated like they were just outright bad. And neither of those, in my opinion, was accurate. That's a game that I have pretty high conviction on.
All right. So I got one I think fits your definition. Detroit's only scored 20 points in regulation in each of their first 3 games, right? Seattle is 3-0. And I think people are thinking that they might be something.
Yeah.
But I think sometimes you do have to look at who you actually beat. Like, I did watch the first Seattle game. They really should have not beaten Denver. I think they only did because Seattle hired the defensive coordinator from the Ravens. So they've kind of made themselves into a defense first type of don't make mistakes, which is really what the NFL is at this point, right? We can have a longer and larger conversation about that. Seattle's 3-0 though, with a win over Denver, New England, and Miami with Skylar Thompson, and then Tim Boyle.
Yeah,
I think that's the only line of the whole week that jumps out at me. The Lions are a home 4 against a team that I think they're going to find themselves against. So
that's a great example.
I like the Lions this week.
So that's a great example. So because to your thinking, it seems like we're all really quick to place Seattle into they're legit.
Yeah. They're probably meh.
And you think they're meh.
Yeah.
Great.
They're not garbage. They're not garbage.
For sure. Well, I mean, I think for sure. But.
Gosh, these NFL lines, they're so freaking sharp. It's just unbelievable. I mentioned Denver because we haven't talked about the Jets. We finally got the full Aaron Rodgers experience.
They looked great
on Thursday night. He looked great. And you forget sometimes how good he can make other people around him look when he moves in the pocket the way he does and avoids the rush and delivers the ball really in a way that only he can. You know, when you talk about a guy we're a good 10 years away from the Aaron Rodgers appreciation renaissance that's going to happen, right? I don't know about you, but your kids are too young now, but in 10 years, you're going to love this. So last week, my oldest son is 19 years old. He's a sophomore in college at ECU. So this summer, him and his friends started playing poker.
Yes.
Okay. So, there was a couple of nights this summer where there was like 16 kids at my house playing poker, right? 2 different tables, the whole thing, all for free, of course. So he goes back to school and some of his friends, are still here. And so they're like, hey, we can still play if you want. I was like, yeah, we'll scrapple something together, get something together. So I got my wife, who's, won't give her age away, but she's my age, right? We've got my friend Steve, who's a big State fan, my age. My neighbor Danny, who's about 10 years younger than us, right? Maybe even 15 years younger than me. And then I got these 2 youths.
The youths.
These 2 youths. They're actually a year younger than James. So they're 1 year out of high school. Okay. Lucas and Keegan. They're both very good card players. They both know how to play poker. They're good players. But and Rashad too. Rashad, who's my James's age. We're sitting there and we're talking about the best rappers of all time.
I am so here for this conversation.
We're talking about the best rappers of all time. And the one kid, I'll give him credit. He was saying, he was trying to say Kendrick Lamar because the song was on Not Like Us, right? And then the one guy was like, no, Nas, not. I was like, okay, I'm happy that you know this.
Yeah.
And then I was trying to tell, because then someone was like, no, Biggie. And I'm like, okay, now the problem with Biggie, who I do enjoy tremendously, he got murdered on track by Tupac. Okay. You there's like no coming, like I was trying to explain to them, like, you think Drake got destroyed by this Not Like Us song? Like, hit him up. Like,
vicious.
And so then we got into, Biggie
best
had
shit
more
talker of all time.
So then we got into this whole conversation, but I had to explain to them, I had to put into context, like, you don't understand, in the 90s, rap was not on the radio. These 2 guys are the ones who broke through and were on the radio. And I go, this song, like, you guys do not understand. And it was funny because we're listening to it and that they had 1 or 2 of them had heard it, but they're kind of listening to it like for the first time. And they're like, well, he's got a guest on this song.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well,
yeah.
I go, yeah. I said, but kind of sort of the My 4-4 make sure all your kids won't grow. Like, guys, come on. Please. How do we come back from that? So I'm trying to explain the context of the 90s to them.
Yeah.
And why they were significant. But it was so funny. Like, this whole conversation. Meanwhile, I got the boom box playing, the aux is connected, the whole thing. And now we're going through the different songs, and it was so funny that they're just like, yeah, but, and I'm like, okay. I say this all in the context of Aaron Rodgers. Like, in 10 years, you're going to have to explain to somebody, no, really, when he was in Green Bay, before the ayahuasca, before he lost his mind, before all this stuff, like, you don't really understand how talented he was and how much better.
Talent is the right word.
He made so much.
The same way that with Mahomes, it's just the technical excellence.
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers, when he is in his bag.
Yep. Or on the perks, if you believe.
Yeah. Which
certain people.
I do believe those people. but yeah, like Aaron Rodgers' total skill set, because it does remind me of Mahomes in that one of the underrated elements is the mobility.
Yeah.
Which he did kind of look like he had on Thursday. It's not necessarily that he's going to break off, rip long ones. It's that he can run for a first if he has to, but he's just moving in the pocket so freaking well and throwing on the run so well. And it was pretty reassuring. Also, going into this campaign, I thought the Jets were going to be real good. And initially, the defense looked a little sus-ish. Hassan Reddick just wasn't showing up, and it seems like there's a little, maybe that defense hasn't been quite as good as they're supposed to be, but against that Patriots O-line, which is down super bad, they look great.
Speaking of a team that's supposed to be garbage, that most people think is garbage, how about the Giants? They should have beaten Washington if they had correctly rostered a kicker that week. They would have. And then last week they go to Cleveland. Cleveland coming off of that win over Jacksonville, feeling froggy about themselves. I mean, Malik Neighbors looks Malik every Neighbors single bit.
And I caught so much grief this season because I shelled out in a lot of places for Malik Neighbors, paying what were viewed as outrageous prices. But boy, Peter gave me so much grief about this. He rules. And even if Danny Jones is bad, which he is.
Yes.
He is bad. But, oh my God, is Malik Neighbors legit. And Dabble, I never know how to say his name, but he's trying to save his job. And to give him some credit, he seems like he is scheming for Neighbors and has clearly given the mandate of you will find him on every freaking play.
And that's opening up things for Devin Singletary too. So I bring this up in the sense that the Giants 4.5-point dogs at home to a Dallas team that seems to be going through it defensively.
Yeah.
Dallas, a team that most people would have thought was legit, right?
Yeah. Dude, Dallas is a team that going in, I think there were definitely folks who thought legit at minimum.
Yeah. First week, kick ass.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not ready to completely dump on the Cowboys yet. I mean, I would be if they lose this game. Again, though, speaking of sharp numbers, this feels like pretty sharp for a Thursday night game. I don't know about you, but Thursday night games, I typically say who's the better coach and the better quarterback. I don't care about anything else on Thursday because it's a short week. This total is 45. I know the Cowboys defense is in question, but I would go under in this game. As a standard play, I would take a winner, whoever you think is the winner, and the under in a same game parlay.
What else?
In this case, you could take the Giants and the points and take the under in a same game parlay.
The other part about NFL is it sometimes you have to be sharp. You have to be willing to take a team that because again, the whole thing is you're trying to be right when other folks aren't seeing it. Nothing is more humiliating than when you do something like back the Giant. And like, I get this thinking completely. I even see it. Cincy last night was a really good example where I see 7.5 and I'm like going pretty hard at it. And it could have absolutely turned out that Cincy just kills them and you feel like an idiot, or, the Giants on this Thursday, maybe they do just get killed, but don't let that, if that happens, don't let that dissuade you from the fact that you're making the call in advance with a read. If you have a read and you're going with it, just own it and feel good about it. And like, if it doesn't work and it gets blown up, like for me, for instance, my only major whiff this last week was backing Houston against the Vikings, and they just got smoked.
Yes.
I'll check the priors. I'm not going to beat myself up too bad about it. But one that actually I'm still thinking about right now is New Orleans So initially going into this campaign, definitely thought they were meh at best. And then they started looking like they might really be real good. They had every opportunity to cover against Philly. I still think they're legit. And it's not that anybody would necessarily knock them down from that tier off of a close game, but it definitely was disappointing in comparison to what it looked like they were doing. Like they were off to a start that looks like maybe we were in another Dolphin situation, not the same style, but just the like, Kubiak comes in, they're using motion like crazy. They're doing so much new and different from what we'd previously seen that maybe it really had been the unlock to a new kick-ass offense. That got checked. That got a little cold water thrown on it, but I think I'm still convinced that New Orleans has something going there, and I'm going to look for that over the course here. Another one, the Ravens' second halves, I think, have really belied the fact that they have been like they lost to the Raiders due to a terrible second half. They did everything in their power to allow Dallas to come back in that game. They're still really good, in my opinion. In my opinion, I think that the Ravens are still really good, and you might be fooled a little bit by the box scores and the fact that they outright managed to lose to the Raiders. I don't know. I'm kind of writing that off as like getting sloppy in second halves. I still think that they're pretty darn good.
I was inspired here, so I created a Groove Wagon pool for us this week.
Excellent.
Code is there on your screen, CX9P262. All you got to do is go to your DraftKings app, go to pools, join a private pool, punch in that code CX9P262. I'll put the code here. I'll put the link itself under here and tweet it out as well. What do you want to give away? You want to give away? How much do you want to give away?
I would love to give out a mix case.
All right.
And also, I need to track down the winner from the last.
I know. We had two winners. I gave them the siren call. We just need them to come home.
All right, cool.
All right, so we got that. And just as a reminder, when you use that DraftKings Sportsbook app, all you got to do is bet $5. You'll get $200 in bonus bets. Bonus bets are a lot of fun. And there's just a lot of different offers here for kind of a little bit of for everyone. If you're advanced, you want to do some more, you can do that. You want to be a beginner and get some of these prefab parlays and some of those other things. You can do that too, but just use that promo code OG24 and you'll get $200 in bonus bets with your first $5 bet. And since we are worldwide, here's a disclaimer.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 and over. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/ftball.
You know what helps me get through my NFL Sundays, even when it's an exciting week? The Groove Wagon, the Fence Hopper,
chillers.
I'm still staying away from the Magnifico. Still don't trust you.
Pico hits harder.
The Hopper will get you going. Delta 8 drinks, thatdamnwagon.com, 919-306-8598. 919-306-8598. You can text the King.
You can
order straight from you.
Oh, you totally can.
Okay.
And half the time it'll actually be me or
Delivers.
my wife that shows up.
Perfect.
Watch party. If anybody wants to catch the Andy Dalton revenge game,
I was going to ask you about that next. What some of your thoughts on what the Panthers are now moving forward, both fantasy wise and gambling.
Well,
wise.
for starters, it makes fantasy wise now a bunch of the Deontay Johnson shares.
I have Chuba Hubbard.
Yeah, these guys are back on the menu.
Yeah.
All right. Also, so my son, who turns 6 in like a week or something, October 2nd, I think. So he is turning 6, and he has been watching. Unfortunately, I did what my dad did to me, and I bequeathed
your fandom,
Panthers fandom.
Yeah.
And this kid is so horrifyingly similar to me in all of the good and bad ways. One of them, he's just, cartoonishly emotional, like over the top. You always know where he stands. He tilts at a college level already because he's insanely competitive and generally a winning winner, and also lets you know about it. And if he's losing, you'll triple know about that. But he is very rational, and so he understands.
At 6, that's impressive.
He understands that, look, the Panthers aren't good now, but hopefully someday in the future they will be, and it'll all be worth it. And even having that understanding, which he's pretty good about, like, we'll watch these games for as long as we can until it gets tragic, and then we go to Red Zone to watch real football. But we always start with the Panthers. And this last weekend, seeing Andy Dalton and seeing the team that he has watched just be terrible for the first time ever, not only not be terrible, but look downright good. It brought joy to children. My son was like over the moon. He's doing the like, which we've had very little occasion to do, but he's doing that, and it's wonderful. And with Dalton, it's nice to see Canales get a chance to show what he can do as a play caller. And his deal was he resurrected Geno, he resurrected Baker. So hopefully this is the beginning of getting to see, a real operation. Does it upgrade us from Garbo to meh? Hopefully. I don't want to get too attached, but hopefully. And, the Bengals, man.
I was going to say, same line, almost very similar situation to the Giants and Cowboys. Panthers are back home, a 4.5-point home dog. Total is 47.5. I like the over in this game because I think with Andy Dalton, they're going to score points. He's definitely going to get passing yards. That was an easy win for me this week. I think it was 214 is what his total was at. I mean, that was a layup. I got one for you right here. Panthers total 20.5 minus 122.
Ooh,
I think they're going to score 3 touchdowns.
3 touchdowns. I mean, 3 touchdowns. That's doable. That is doable.
You're not asking for a miracle.
And that Bengals defense. And so Trey Hendrickson's good.
Bengals apparently can only play defense against Patrick Mahomes, and that's it.
Yeah. They have looked real bad. Again, Zach Taylor, I was out on even when they were winning. I don't think he's any good at all. What else is on the slate this week?
It's a tricky one because you got the Vikings plus 2.5 at Green Bay. Green Bay acquitting themselves with Malik Willis. Maybe speaking of coaches who have done good work.
Yeah, LaFleur and KOC both.
Maybe kind of skating
solid
under the radar a little bit, LaFleur. The Steelers, who are 3-0 at the Colts, who are a true roulette situation with Anthony Richardson. Steelers are 2-point favorites on the road, but that place is going to be filled with Pittsburgh fans.
Yinzer's travel.
Yeah. The Broncos are a 7-point dog at the Jets. That we were thinking of this as a revenge game last year. Obviously didn't turn out that way.
I might like that there actually. The Broncos, Bo Nix looking a little frisky last week.
He did. He played better.
I mean,
Sean Payton's still a really good coach. He is.
Is he?
He is.
Okay.
He is.
I'll take your word for it. I'm not saying he's bad at all.
Right.
I feel like we have
this
been
is your
holding
Panther
on.
fan. This is your Panther.
Maybe. But that one is interesting to me because, again, if the Jets are rounding into form, it really is just a question of if that defense is capable.
There's another one I like. I like the Falcons -1 at home against the Saints. Falcons last 2 weeks have played the Eagles on the road and the Chiefs at home. Like, this is like taking the donut off the bat in the warm-up circle. Yeah, the Saints are probably better than we think, but I think the Falcons found some things on offense, Kirk Cousins in particular, the last 2 weeks.
That last drive, that Kirk Cousins drive at the end of that game was
He's playing against the best defense in the NFL, though.
Yeah.
After getting it done against the Eagles the previous week. So again, I think they're going to find the sledding a lot easier against the Saints than they did the Falcons.
Maybe.
Than they did the Chiefs.
I now, I'm over here talking like you got to reevaluate your priors and reassess. I don't know, man. I continue to be a Falcons hater.
Really?
Yeah, dude. Just
the Philly drive did nothing for you.
That was a kick-ass drive.
Yeah.
That was also, I do love Bijan. He looks like a total weapon. Drake London is now doing stuff, which I keep getting grief for because, whatever. I guess he's an entity. But yeah, I don't know, man. I think I maybe I'm 1 week still stubborn, but I probably am going with the Saints there just because I don't know what. We're really anointing the Falcons.
I'm not anointing them. I'm just saying after playing two really good teams.
That's true.
High level teams.
That's true.
I mean, their offense has been better, and the book is giving you a win here. They're saying just pick a winner. They're not giving you a win. They're saying just pick a winner and you'll be right.
Yeah.
So I like those types of situations. There's a lot of those this week, and then there's a lot of like a 7. The Broncos game is 7. You have the Jaguars getting 6. The Patriots.
Wait, who did the Jaguars play?
The Texans.
Oh God.
The Chiefs are favored by 8 over the Chargers, and everything else is back in that 1 to 3.5, 4 range. I mean, it's a again, the NFL is the sharpest league for a reason. They get their homework right.
I might go hard on that Saints game.
You're gonna go the other way?
I'm for sure going the other way. But
Saints plus 110 on the money line.
There. But because again, this is, and by the way, this is the beauty of these conversations that we have.
Sure.
I think for yourself, folks.
Yeah.
It's anytime you're watching, I love what you say about, actually watch the games, because if you do watch a ton of football, especially if you're not watching Red Zone, I do love Red Zone, but it can give you really it's not the whole story,
Right.
I like to have, when you go out to the bars, you go to Tap Yard, Sunday ticket, Bowstring, Sunday ticket. But when you go out to the bars, I like that you can actually see all of the games and have, lock in on a game for a little while, even if there's not a ton of action, and just kind of get a read. And that's where you can really do some thinking for yourself of no, this team isn't that bad, or, this team is a fraud. A great fraud example, that Dallas Dak went nuts, right? If you look at the box score, he ended up throwing a bunch of touchdowns. Dude, Dak was atrocious in that game. They started in he went nuts when the game was well out of hand. But there are just so many situations you can find yourself in where if you make a mental note of, this team isn't that bad, or, this team is bad, but just really covered it up, put a pin in that and think of it for the next week when you're looking to make your reads.
No doubt. I put the link in the comments below to join our contest this week. It's gonna start on Thursday this week, so we'll have all the games this week, not just the Sunday games. We'll keep track of that, but just remember, when you join us and you play in our reindeer games, be ready to win.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got the Groove Wagon for you. So again, go to that DraftKings Sportsbook app, CX9P262, and on Sunday you're at Bowstring.
Yep. And look, parking at Bowstring can be intense. They do have 2 lots nearby. Maybe do show up a little early, because it is a phenomenal place to watch games. It does get crowded accordingly. But they also have a great parent trap situation. That's what we refer to, the giant AstroTurf zone, where you can let them do their thing. Two acronyms for you that'll always serve you well. ABB, always be bonusing. Always be bonusing. There's always opportunity on DraftKings to be bonusing out. Get your boosts, always that. And then GMLK, Garbo, legit, kick-ass. Think for yourselves and apply what you think to the bets.
All right. Good luck. I know I'll need it.